Hello, everyone. So, I'm going to share some teachings and lessons that are manifesting in my world right now and see what comes through. First, to acknowledge that there is an intelligence to life that's so intimately, innately, intricately aware of all of it, all of itself, all of us, all of you. And this awareness is centered within each one of us, but it's not local to any one of us. It's not defined by anyone's personal subjective experience. And we walk through this life with this really strong sense of me and my journey, you and your journey, but the awareness of the one is so much more encompassing than that. I recently heard a teaching from David Hoffmeister, who teaches on A Course in Miracles. And this teaching just really got me locked into a really meditative space. He said something to the likes of, the mind does not extend beyond itself. The mind can only extend to itself. The idea here being that there's nothing that exists outside of the mind. And so we have this world of perception. I'm now seeing myself on the computer screen. I'm looking at a camera. I have this idea of talking to you. And I can close my eyes, and all of these things are images. These are constructs that I am holding within my own consciousness, within my own awareness. And I simply find upon reflection, and there's nothing that I experience in this world, no one that I think of, no one that I talk to, nothing that I see, nothing that I hear, that isn't manifesting in here, right? It has to manifest in here within the field of my own awareness for me to even register it as existing out there in the first place. And my field of awareness doesn't differentiate between whether I'm having a dream or whether I'm here looking at someone directly and having a conversation. And scrolling on Facebook and sometimes reading political posts and even noticing where things kind of irk me, this creative question just sort of arose, which is, what will we allow to disrupt our peace today? What aspects of phenomenal existence will we hold with such seriousness that we will get so wrapped up, so entangled in it? And there's no doubt that life will continue to present all kinds of opportunities to become entangled and hooked into very, very petty concerns. And the question is, what is a petty concern? Where do we draw the line? Are certain concerns not petty? There's a beautiful teaching in A Course in Miracles that I deeply respect, which is twofold. One, there are no big or small problems. They're all the same. All illusions are the same. And the perception of distress, the experience of distress in one circumstance, isn't qualitatively more justifiable or more real or more accurate than distress and fear in another environment. That the root of it all is the same illusion. And in that sense, the opposite is true, that the revelation of truth, the manifestation of revelation and miracles, is equally available and accessible in any context. And it teaches that one miracle is not harder than another. There's no order of difficulty in miracles. Love isn't limited in its breadth of potential. Love can't be like, oh yeah, moving the mountain is hard, but forgiveness between two people, that's an easy one. It's like, love isn't limited by form. And this is the thing that we're learning on this journey. This is really in my own blossoming, in my own journey of seeing this. that's sort of the punchline that we have that choice fundamentally within all of our life experiences, even if we don't understand it. That's the challenge. We often come to these experiences or these circumstances that we don't understand, and the fear that not understanding engenders is because we can't control it, and thus we don't know who we are. We're fundamentally afraid of loss. Circumstances that elicit great fear are circumstances where we don't know what we might lose. The fear of loss, concern with gain and loss, it all roots in this. The concern with gain and loss is the source, is sort of the starting point, is the root for fear of what might happen, and thus this stance of resistance relative to our circumstances in life. If we knew that we are safe, if we knew that we always have what we need, that life provides so intelligently and consciously for our every need, and that there's only benevolence in this universe, that it's a friendly universe, if that conception was imminent, if it was just right here at the forefront of our awareness, fear could not thrive. And so where fear does manifest, and subsets of fear, all other expressions of anxiety, depression, worry, anger, resentment, where this arises on our journey, it is just a gentle way showing of where the remembrance of what we are, the remembrance of love, the remembrance of the unconditioned is beginning to reignite itself, beginning to come back on board. And so this punchline, this thing that we're all kind of like working out is to remember that love is primary to reality. Love comes before everything else. Love is before time. It's not before time because before is sequential. It's original. It's essence. And where we give all this attention to the form, to structure, to our roles, to our identity constructs, to who we are, what it has to look like, and how we have to do things, it's a confusion that we fall into, because there is on our journey this process of working with form, working with time, and to use it consciously, right? No one is here transcending form and time in the body and the need to make a living and food and supporting the body. We're all working in this realm, and thus we're all acknowledging that there are limitations to our consciousness, but these limitations are not original to who we are. And thus to be working with the forms and the structures that are present in our life and to unravel them. It's almost like the form that's available in our life is to be used as the stepping stone to the unraveling of our own conditioning. But when we become so identified with form and structure, we deify form, we deify time and space and solidity over the unformed, the unconditioned, over love. And it basically puts a condition on love. It puts a condition on God, puts a condition on the absolute. And it says, you're not absolute, which basically says, I'm limited, I'm stuck, I'm in jail. And this world is a confined and a hard and a depressing and an unsafe place. We hold ourselves in that perception. I had a dream recently. I don't remember the wording. It went something like, where there are roles, there cannot be love. Or when you're defined by a role, you can't love. And it's an interesting thing to think about, because I can easily argue, like, well, what do you mean? I'm a father. I'm a father and I love my daughter. But when we look at it, it's, I'm a father. It's like biologically true. Like it's biologically true. It's socially true. It's practically true. And when I'm raising her, I can use that card. I'm your father or whatever. There's on the level of form, in working with time and space consciously, we can acknowledge that reality. But when I become so invested in that and my infinite beingness, which is precious, it's untouchable, it can't be taken away from me. But because of its innocence, it's never going to resist. It's never going to protest any kind of illusion. That's the amazingness of innocence. That's the amazingness of pure consciousness. And so we all have this freedom to project whatever we want to think of ourselves and to project whatever we want to think of the world. And there will be no protest from our own minds. We will believe it. And so I'm a father, that becomes a conditioned reality, and I can hold that. And we can apply this to our relationships. And this is who I am. This is what you are. And thus, this is what's supposed to happen in my life. This is where things are supposed to go. And when our roles become the primary reality, there's no longer any fluidity. There's no longer any flexibility to listen, to see, to actually notice things as they are. I was noticing that my daughter just sort of stares, and this, see if I can replicate it. I'm not sure how weird that looked. It's just this like, it's empty, but it's not void of life. It's just like, maybe I'm trying too hard. Yeah, I'm trying too hard. Yeah. That's the whole point. It's when I watch her looking, the innocence is so apparent. Like, I can see her looking at a computer and she's not thinking, here's a defined object. Like, there aren't differentiations in her mind. I can just tell. It's like there's not a, like, this is your body. Like, recognizing a whole body as a body. There's just this perception, this perceptiveness to her vision. And it occurred to me that in that innocence, she sees more accurately than I do. Because when I look at things, I'm seeing things in their physical form. And I have only past associations to the objects that I see in my reality, whereas she has no associations. And I can see it. She is attuned to the illumination of things. She's overlooking at what I see as blank space. And I know there's a whole lot of stuff going on in that blank space. So it's a very interesting thing to think about, how so much of the world that we see, the world that we think is so concrete and real, are just projections of our own mind. And love can't enter that. Forgiveness can't enter that. When we crystallize something as something, whether it's an object, whether it's a person, whether it's a sense of who we are and what we're here to do, whenever anything becomes crystallized, it blocks forgiveness, because forgiveness basically frees space up. It allows everything to return to its natural place as God intends it to be, as it is created to be. And when everything returns to its natural place, it returns to oneness. It doesn't exist in separation. It's this idea from David Hoffmeister that the mind can only extend to itself, that the mind does not extend outside of itself, because there's nothing outside of itself. I can look at you, I can look at this computer, I can think of my role as a father, And all of that is equally true whether my eyes are open or closed. My thoughts, what I imagine, when I think of anything that's ever happened out there, anything that has ever happened out there, if I think of it, it's here. And if it doesn't register in my awareness, then I have not yet known it. And thus it does not exist out there. If I learn something new and I realize something new, it means it has had to occur on the inside first. And to really unravel that, to really find a commitment to look at what is the nature of the mind. If the mind only extends to itself, it doesn't mean that there's two minds then. It must mean there's only one mind, projecting itself as separate minds. One of the teachings or things that I'm learning, that I'm meditating on, is that thought is not private. Thought is unified. There's no such thing as thinking in a vacuum. There's no such thing as perceiving in a vacuum. There's no such thing as healing in a vacuum. To imagine any phenomena, whether it's physical or mental, as existing independently is to then validate the illusion of separation. It's to validate the truth, the absoluteness of form and division. It's to validate that, yes, there's separation here, you. And of course, we work with that. We acknowledge the manifestation of that. But it's all just a stepping stone. One final thought. My work, the work that I do, in lieu of this notion of this question of, the roles that I play and how conditioned or seriously I take it, how much I think of it as being what I am. I see people out there that are, professional astrologers or professional whatever, and they really have found their niche, writing columns or writing books or doing classes. And I've been in this very interesting exploration in my life. It kind of feels it's been drawn out through many years. It's almost like my whole life has been this exploration where the arriving at a sense of certainty about what I'm doing, about my role, has never landed completely. And I've in some way always been exploring or experimenting with different structure. Right? This is what I'm doing. And many years ago I stopped calling my work astrology readings, even though it's a part of what I do. Just to create more spaciousness, to honor that larger field of what wants to happen, and to honor the intuitive connections that I receive, and to not fix it around giving information. But when I was in high school, I was, writing articles and teaching according to the Torah. I would find in the Torah the platform to kind of derive all kinds of insights and teachings that I can share with others. But as I grew, I realized, well, I can have these insights without the Torah. Like, it doesn't have to come from a book. I don't have to link it to something. And I find that when I'm, in conversation with someone, just spending time with a friend, I can listen to them. And when there's zero self-pressure, zero expectation, that I have to play a certain role, that I have to be something for someone, that my function is to show up in a certain way and provide a particular kind of service. And there's just the movement of love wanting to manifest itself as presence and availability. The wisdom, the teachings, the clarity, the insight, the perceptions that come through are pure, very real, very clear. And I've had so many interactions with friends recently, just kind of holding this space where it's not about how much money they were paying me, if at all, not about the role that I was expected to play. It's like the innocence of just being present and available because it's love, and that's this calling of what wants to be right now. And I love doing sessions. And I had this very real need to be earning a living right now and to support my family. And I'm just holding this with such curiosity, because it doesn't feel true. It doesn't feel true for me to say, I want to do more sessions as a way to earn money to support my family, because it's such a significant linkage of these factors, and one doesn't inherently feel connected to another. There are a lot of conditions in that statement, and by no means have I worked all of this out. I'm just so curious about it, right? And again, a lot of people have different systems of working with money in exchange, and I've experimented a little bit with it. By no means do I want to just be giving away a service and not earning money, or just be indiscriminately trusting and hope that life works out. Like, that's one approach. I don't feel any resistance to charging for my work. I don't feel any resistance, but there's a dance, there's an inquiry, and there's an exploration here. And I just think it's important that we continue to explore those places that feel like there's more to unravel, because we're not here to stop. We're not here to set up shop and make home in one identity. For a while, we can do it, and we do it, and it works out, and we learn a lot. But we have to keep on going. There's such importance for us in staying awake and alert to the evolutionary journey, to what's awake and moving right now. Mm. I notice that the more we are concerned with outcome, the more control we tend to assert. The least we are concerned with outcome, the less control we feel we need to assert. Paradoxically, when we do, and our actions are authentic and they're clean, they're not hanging on to concern with the results, the effects are maximal. It creates more space for synchronicity and for life and spirit to move um, everything the way it wants to. The more empty we are in our actions, the more fruitive they are. And yet, relative to the concern and the fear of gain and loss and what we might lose and the fear of the future, we will be impelled to control. And so that's a good inquiry for me right now. And a part of me is always just, there's something in me just impelling itself, impelling me towards a deeper understanding of freedom. Freedom that has nothing to do with running away from conditions, because that is not freedom, that's still slavery. But it's freedom from the conditions, and thus the freedom to inhabit them without being enslaved by them, to work with them, to use them consciously. I was listening to this talk from Adyashanti, who was talking about these two expressions of freedom. There's freedom from the illusions of the world, freedom from the world, and there's a freedom to live in it. And to live in it, but to not be of it, means we can use it and not be defined by it, not be enslaved by it. And we can offer a gift to others to show that we can live in this world, but know ourselves to be more than what we see. That our identity can be rooted in truth, in freedom, in love, which is deeper than our perceptions, deeper than our illusions, deeper than our conditioning. All right. Many blessings, ease, and joy to us all. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening and joining me.